Please be seated. The court is back in session. The chamber is now going to give the floor to the que s'en prend defense so that it may continue with its questions. Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Ms. Nosatas. We concluded before lunch this part of my questioning, and during that you spoke about Ho, the district chief who was at Trier, and Ho apparently was a revolutionary nickname. So do you know his real name? No, I don't know his real name. I only know him as Ho, his nickname. And if I remember your statement well, it is someone else who gave you his name. Was it one of the soldiers who accompanied him, or was it one of the soldiers who took you to Tri who told you his name? He told me that this person was called Ho. Well, in fact, it was the member of the district committee who told me that his name was Ho. And do you remember the name of this district committee member, this deputy who told you his name? Yes. His name was Pine. The first member was called Chem. Now, regarding this Ho, no, I have no idea, and I don't know where he lives. Since then, I never saw him again. Maybe he settled elsewhere. I'm asking you this question because in your interview with the investigators, E3/5193, French ERN 00224113, in English 00274704, Khmer 00204445. You provide clarification regarding your interview with Mr. Osman, and this is what you say regarding the people who were working with Ho and about Ho himself. You say, Tan, Ho's messenger, is now living in village number 4, Sveikleng commune. Chet, another messenger, was executed at the same time as Ho by the villagers in 1979. And you specify, I did not know Ho before that. End of quote, free translation. So, does this jog your memory? And this Ho, the district chief you spoke about, and whom you described as being the person who questioned you when you were detained at Tri Was Ho indeed executed by the villagers in 1979? He was killed by the villagers. Well, I don't know exactly. I just hid in the forest until the end of the Khmer Rouge regime. So I was not aware of his execution after the Khmer Rouge regime fell. So my logical question is therefore, so why did you say that? Why did you say that to the investigators of the OCIJ? Why did you provide this detail? Because here, once again, this is something that you added to your interview with Osman. And here, when you're interviewed by the OCIJ, you provide this information. So maybe I'm speaking too fast, but let me put the question to you again. Why did you provide this information to the OCIJ investigators if you did not know? Whereas this is something that you added to what you had already said to Issa Osman. Why did you say that if you did not know? I don't quite understand. Well, I have no idea. I did not know that he had been killed by the villagers because I separated from him when I hid in the forest. And when I was detained, yes, I knew him, of course. But as far as his death is concerned, I have no idea about it. I never said that to Usman. I never spoke about that. No, I did not say that you said that to Issa Usman. What I quoted was what was noted from what you said to the investigators of the OCIJ. So this is after your interview with Issa Osman. This is in 2008. On 8 July 2008, you were interviewed by investigators by the OCIJ, and I quoted what they noted down as being what you had said to them. So maybe you don't remember, is that it? Or you never said that? Well, I don't know what's happening. In fact, I never said that to the investigators. In your interview with Issa Osman in 2000, do you remember? Well, let me phrase it differently. After you were detained in Trier, where you stayed for 9 days after you were arrested, after you were assigned to the Krochmar market where you had to sort and wash clothes. Is that true? Did I understand your testimony correctly? Yes, indeed, I remember that. They appointed me to sort clothes, the clothes of those who had been taken away, and the clothes were in the warehouse of the Krochma market. So I was assigned to sort the clothes for a few days. And as I was sorting through the clothes, I recognized clothes from my relatives, from my uncles, from my mother, from my aunts, but I did not see gold or silver that they had before, because when they boarded the boats, they could only, well, they had to leave with nothing on them. So I was assigned to do this job with a group. When you say clothes, when you speak about clothes that belong to people who were taken away, do we agree that these were the black clothes that everyone wore back then? President, please hold on. Yes, they were black clothes, but they were also clothes from the former regime, old clothes from the former regime. They were allowed or they were obliged to leave without anything, so they could only leave with the clothes they were wearing. Those who boarded the boats could take nothing with them. And when you say we were assigned to sort through clothes, are you speaking about these young ladies from your village who were with you in the house in Trier, or are you speaking about other people? It was at Krochma, and we all left together to sort through the clothes in order to complete the job as fast as possible. This took us a few days. And was Hamak Sophias with you then? Yes. She was part of my group. I hid in the forest and I stayed at the district office. Well, regarding your flight into the forest, do you remember the reasons you provided to Isa Osman regarding your flight? I don't remember the reasons I explained to Isa Usman. I don't remember anymore. I can read out an excerpt of your interview with him. It's document E3 slash 9307, French ERN 01128404, Khmer 000459110, English 01132818. And this is what you say after you were sent to the Krochma market, and we had to sort through clothes, put aside the clothes that were too torn and burn them, and wash those that were in good condition. They would monitor us so closely that I panicked and I fled into the forest. End of quote, free translation. So, do you remember now this interview? Does this, what I just read out to you, somewhat refresh your memory? Answer, yes. That is indeed what happened. And I spent very little time at the market. The job there took us 3 days because there were about 40 of us working. And young boys fled in the forest where we were living. Let us say Viesna. Let me go step by step, so I don't have much time, so I'm really asking you please to listen to my questions carefully. So you remember what you said to Isa Osman. When you were questioned, in 2008 by the OCIJ, you, well, they read out to you a statement that was inspired from your interview with Issa Osman. And in this 2008 statement, you also say that you fled into the forest a little while afterwards, but never, you said, whether with Issa Osman or with the investigators of the OCIJ, never you spoke about what you spoke about later in your civil party application to be admitted as a civil party in this trial. You never spoke about the fact that apparently you were ordered to dig holes and that these pits were going to be used as graves. You said it you only said it for the first time in December 2009 when you filled out your civil party application, or your victim's information form, corrects the interpreter. So my question is the following: why did you say that for the first time then, in 2009, whereas in 2000 you were interviewed by Issa Osman and you did not talk about this, and when you were interviewed by the investigators of the OCIJ, you also did not give this information, and you only provided this information for the first time in 2009. So can you explain why? Can you explain how this is possible? As I said, sometimes I remember what I said, sometimes I don't, so I am unable to answer your question. I only remember snippets of what I said in the past. The problem here, Ms. Nosatas, is that in this statement you add things that a priori are worse for you than before, and you only do this in 2009 when you fill out your civil party application, whereas you indicated to the international co-prosecutor or national co-prosecutor that when you said that you had been a direct witness of executions, you lied because you wanted justice to be done vis-à-vis these murderers. So how is it that when you're questioned by Issa Osman, you could say things that you hadn't seen, whereas you had the opportunity to say things that you experienced when you were interviewed then, because today you tell us that this is what happened. So why didn't you say it to Issa Osman in 2000? And why didn't you say it to the investigators of the co-investigating judges when you were interviewed by them in 2008? No, I'm not lying to you. I said that I did not witness executions. I saw bodies in the river. I saw bodies on stakes, and they questioned us, and if we said we were Cham, we were taken away, and if we were Khmer, if we said we were Khmer, they said we could stay behind. President, civil party, please focus on the question that's put to you. Counsel, please rephrase your question. The civil party is confused because your question is long, so please break up your question into segments so that the civil party may understand your objective better, given that her level of schooling is not that high. So please sum up the relevant issues in your questions so that the civil party may answer your question. And if you provide a quote that is too long, it will be completely useless. It will be of no purpose in our endeavor to ascertain the truth. Ms. Nosatas, for the first time in December 2009, when you filled out your civil party application, for the first time, therefore, you explained to someone that you apparently fled the Krochma market because you were apparently asked to dig what was going to be used as graves. This is the first time you said that. So my question is the following. Why, when you were questioned by Isa Osman and then by the investigators of the co-investigating judges, why then didn't you say it before? When I returned to Trier from Krochma, I was asked to dig pits a half-meter wide and 2 meters long. That was not my question. My question is why didn't you speak about that before in 2000 when you were interviewed by Isa Osman and then in 2008 when you were interviewed by the OCIJ? Why? Well, I was interviewed several times. You know, I'm giving you answers when I can remember things. So that's why. And this will be my last question now. I'm surprised to see that you did not have these elements in mind, whereas you had in mind to say things that you were not a direct witness of, that is to say the executions, because you acknowledge having lied in that regard. So why did you say things that you did not see, talk about things that you did not see, and why didn't you speak about things that you say now that you had seen? Please proceed, international co-prosecutor.
Mr. President, I object to the form of the question. Counsel seems to be testifying as to her own impressions of when the civil party gave certain information. So if she has a question asked, she can simply ask the question, but providing her own impressions of what she is surprised as to is not a proper way to formulate the question.
Well, since this is the third or fourth time that I'm putting the question to the civil party, I believe the question was very clear. Well, in any case, why did you talk about things that you hadn't seen to Mr. Isa Osman, and why didn't you talk about things that you now say you had seen? President, was the question dealt with in her previous statements? Is this digging of pits mentioned in any of the documents? Because in the documents, the issue of digging pits was never mentioned. So this fact does not exist, in fact. So it seems to me that you are inventing a fact or creating a fact. You have just said to the civil party or asked the civil party to answer exactly your questions, but after having examined the document, I did not see this digging of pits being mentioned. So your question is repetitive. So please be precise and please take into account the civil party's level of education. So did the investigators put this question to the civil party, yes or no, regarding the pits that were going to be used as graves? If the question was put already, the civil party should answer it. But she also has the right to speak about her experience during the entire Khmer Rouge regime. So, your last question, please, because the chamber gave you 15 extra minutes, and now, well, the 15 minutes are up. Well, for the transcript, in the Ms. Nosata's civil party application E3/4705, French ERN 00417851, Khmer 52, sorry, in French 00 Khmer 369026, French 00932676, and the first ERN I mentioned, that is to say 00417852, is the English ERN, and I'm sorry. So in this document, for the first time, Ms. Nosatas indicated that the reason she apparently fled into the forest is that she was told that she was going to, or that she was ordered to dig pits for her own grave. This is the first time she provided this information in December 2009, whereas, as I reminded earlier by referring to her interview with Mr. Isa Osman, she then explained that she fled into the forest for another reason, because she said that she was being watched too closely and that she panicked. So I have questions about the difference between both versions. I don't think I will be provided with an answer, but I wanted to communicate this information for the transcript. Nothing here has been invented. I'm only basing myself on statements from Ms. Nosatas, and I am done, Mr. President.
President Madame Nosatas, you may make an impact statement concerning the crimes which are alleged against the two accused, Nunchi and Kirsampon, and harm suffered by you during the democratic Cambodia, resulting in your civil party application to claim collective and moral reparations for physical, material, or mental injuries as direct consequences of those crimes. That is, if you wish to do so, you may proceed. Civil party. I'd like to make a request to you, Mr. President. I suffered greatly while I worked at Bang Chap over Dak Canal, and I became so seriously sick, but I had to force to carry the dirt, and I became unconscious around 2 o'clock in the afternoon that day, and I was carried to the hospital. I didn't have any strength left in me, and I could only rest at the hospital for 10 days. I returned to work so that I could not consider to make any mistake against Onka, and that my life would be spared. During the second year, that is after I finished digging a canal in Krachap, I was sent to work on third village, and I had to walk for 3 days in order to reach that location. We didn't have any proper place to stay. Whenever the nightfall came, we had to stop and sleep there. And sometimes we had to sleep on the graves. And only in the morning we realized that it was a graveyard. Next morning we were asked to cut the branches of a tree to make a makeshift shelter in the middle of nowhere. So we had to cut those small trees to make a roof, and we had to sleep on a mat on the floor, that is on the ground. And when the rain came, we went to the villager's house and to ask them for permission to stay, but they didn't dare to let us stay. So we had to sleep in the mud, in the water, and we could not. There were many leeches. We were fully soaked, and in the morning we had to go to the field to work. And when there was so much rain, then we were allowed to return to the village since we could not work anymore there. And I stayed at the Ksai for only 3 days. Then I was sent to Chinit again to dig the earth. And I did not know the purpose for us digging the earth there. And a fortnight after, we had the exchange of a gunfire. We had it continuously from early morning until noontime. Then we couldn't stand there anymore. Then we ran away from that work site to our village. We left behind our belonging, that is our few clothes. So when we arrived home, we did not have any clothes, any spare clothes to wear. I had to ask for my mother's clothes so that I could change the clothes that I wore. As for the food, we were only given a little gruel in exchange of the 3 cubic meters of earth that we had to dig. There was no delicious food given to us. And the food that was given to us was tasteless. We had to eat gruel with salt. The soup that was given to us was so muddy. It was a mixture of banana stump and some tree leaves, and without any meat or fish in there. And they call it the special soup for us. During the 2 months that I worked there, we never had any tasteful soup at all. If we couldn't complete the 3 cubic meters of digging the earth during the work hours, we had to work during the night in order to complete the work quota. Sometimes I waved, and sometimes I had to crawl back to my sleeping quarter because I was so exhausted. And I was thinking of my siblings I miss them so much, but I was not allowed to visit them. And later on, I was sent to build a dam at Chinit. And as I said later on, when there was an exchange of gunfight, when the Southwest group arrived, we returned to the village, and about a fortnight later, we were rounded up to be sent to be killed. And my father and some of my relatives had already been rounded up and taken away and killed. And later on, it was our turn. They used the pretext that we were to be relocated. When we were sent away, the men were sent to Stang Trong, and a day after the men were sent, the wives and the families, the children were sent subsequently. And I was assigned to work in a mobile unit that is to go and work in Trier village. I cannot forget the experience that I went through during the Pol Pot regime. There are countless of events that I cannot recall. If I recall them, I would tell you everything. Tell about the difficult time and the hardship that I went through. Sometimes there was nothing to eat. We had to grab some grains from the rice stalk in the field. We ground them secretly in order to eat it. Sometimes soldiers came to hurt some people away. They burned our belongings, they burned blanket, and they destroyed rice and salt. They actually ruined the place, the village, before they left at around 6 or 7 o'clock. I almost died during the regime, but I made my determination to live on. If I were to die naturally, then that would be the happy ending for me. I didn't want to be tied away and taken and killed. And if I were to flee and shot dead, that would be it. They fired upon us, and in late 1978, when I returned to the village, because I heard that some people returned to the village, and I hope that my parents returned. And I was actually sent to live in Suong when the Liberation Front liberated that area. We were told by messengers that Phnom Penh was captured and the Pol Pot clique actually fled. So we walked one full day to return, and we had to carry some wounded people or wounded soldiers who were soldiers of the Khmer Soul or White Khmer, and one of them had their bowel slashed, and we had to carry him to the area of Suong. So we walked from Samboksat forest, and we arrived at Trapang Kla by about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That is almost a whole day because we started leaving the forest at around 6 in the morning. Sometimes we had to walk through the water up to the chest or up to our neck. That is the height of the water. We had to keep changing, carrying the wounded soldiers. So we finally arrived in Suwon, and I was expecting to see the return of my relatives or my parents. Then there was no news, so I had to walk to Svai Klang, and it took me 3 days to walk on foot to my village. There was no other means of traveling. When the night fell, as I said, we had to sleep there, and I walked with a few of my friends. And when we arrived in the village, I asked those who had arrived about my relatives, and they said no, they did not see any, including my grandmother and my parents, and they disappeared since. So I became a lone survivor of my family. By that time, I was not yet married. I actually pitied and I regretted what happened so much. I rather died than losing my family members. Because by that time I did not marry my husband yet, and if I were to marry a husband and had children, I would not allow my husband and children to live in such a miserable life. When I looked at other families who had their relatives survived, I felt so pity of myself. Sometimes I had to sit down quietly and wept. I looked like a crazy person at that time. I pitied my younger siblings. I really pitied them. I recalled when they did not have any food to eat, they lied down on the ground and they were so weak. I had to go out and search for food, for vegetable or leaves for them to eat. They were so skinny. Sometimes I wanted to kill myself. I did not want to witness such a misery experienced by my siblings. Every time I recall what happened in the past, it seems that my mind is not in my body anymore. And it's up to my children. Thanks to them, sometimes they try to comfort me. But to me, the memory is still vivid in my mind. I would exchange my life for food for my siblings. And I keep asking the question to myself why my siblings, including my mother, were taken away and never returned. And I'd like to put this question to any person in this court who is responsible and can give me the answer. What was the purpose of making the revolution? President Madame Satas, you have the right to put questions to the accused through us, the President of the Chamber, and it is not proper, according to the law, to put a question to anyone or to any parties in this proceeding. You can, as I said, put questions to the two accused through the chamber. Civil party, I don't have any question anymore, if that is the case, because I don't recall the question that I wanted to ask earlier. I stop speaking now. President, if that is the case, then please stop. And political lawyer, you have the floor. But, Mr. President, it seems that the civil party is overwhelmed. For that reason, she forgets the questions, and please allow her lawyer, Largenti, to put questions on her behalf. President, no, the chamber does not allow that. And Madam Nusatas, the chamber is grateful of your time and testimony and your statement of harm and suffering that you claim you suffered under the Democratic Cambodia regime. And your conclusion, your testimony is now concluded. Your testimony may contribute to ascertaining the truth in this case, and you are no longer required to be present in the courtroom. For that reason, you may return to your residence or wherever you wish to go to, and the chamber wishes you all the very best. Court officer, please assist the civil party, Madame Nusatas, to return to her residence or wherever she wishes to go to. And please invite the witness, that is through TCW 845, into the courtroom. President, good afternoon, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Witness, my name is Supal. President, thank you, Mr. Supal. And when were you born? Answer, I only recall the year and not the day or the month. I was born in 1964. Question, and where were you born? Answer, I was born in Chropja village, Chupvari commune, Prenetpre district, Battambong province. Question, and where is your current address? Answer, Currently, I am at Trapang Tao village, Trapang Tao commune on Long Vang district. Question: what is your current occupation? Answer: I am a rice farmer. Question: what are the names of your father and mother? Answer: my father is Vai Soon and my mother is Oi Tu. Question: what is your wife's name and how many children do you have? Answer: my wife is Ham Thun and we have 4 children. President, thank you, Mr. Sotsapol. The Graphi made an oral report this morning that, to your best knowledge, you are not related to the two accused, that is Nuon Chi and Khieu Sampon, or through any of the civil parties admitted in this case. Is that correct? Answer: yes, Mr. President, I am not related to them. Question: when I refer to related, are you related to the accused by blood or by law, to any of them, or through any of the civil parties? And when I refer to by law, it means whether you are related to them as in-law, that is, they are the relatives of your wife. So, to your knowledge, are you related to any of them? Answer: no, I am not, Mr. President. Question: did you take an oath before the Iron Club statue, before your appearance in this chamber? Answer: yes, I already threw an oath. President, the chamber would like to inform you of your rights and obligations as a witness. And Mr. Sotsapol, as a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you. That is your right against self-incrimination. As for your obligations as a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comments to those questions may incriminate you. And as a witness, you must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or the parties pose to you. And Mr. Sotsapol, have you been interviewed by investigators of the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges? If so, how many times, when, and where? Answer: Mr. President, I was interviewed. And please repeat your question. Question: have you been interviewed by investigators of the OCIJ? Answer: yes, I was. Question: how many times? Answer: it was for one time. Question: when did it take place and where? Answer: it was quite a long time ago. I cannot recall when, and it took place at the Trapang Ta village, Trapang Ta commune on Long Vang district. and I believe it's about 6 or 7 years ago. President, that is all right. And before your appearance, have you reviewed or read the written record of your statement? And I cannot read, Mr. President, but I had my elder siblings read it to me. Question. And to your best knowledge, does the written record of your statement, which was read to you, consistent with the statements that you provided to the OCIJ investigator? And as you said that it happened in your village? And I recall some, but not everything, because it happened a long time ago. President, that is all right. Pursuant to Rule 91 of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber gives the floor first to the co-prosecutors, and the combined time for the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyers is 2 sessions, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, Counsel, and good afternoon to you as well, Mr. Sotsapal. My name is Travis Farr. I'm a lawyer for the prosecution, and I'm going to be asking you questions this afternoon, primarily about your experience at the Trapeang Tama Dam work site. But before I get to that, I want to just briefly ask you about some of the things that happened before you arrived at that work site. And in your OCIJ statement, you mentioned that at one point you were sent to work at a kapok plantation. Can you tell us approximately how old you were when that happened?
I was between the ages of 15 and 16. I had to cut eupatorium to make fertilizer. Sometimes I was asked to carry termite mound dirt, but I don't remember everything.
And can you tell us how many other children you were working with at that time?
There were many of us, between 2,000 to 3,000 children, yes.
And at that time, were you living with your parents, or had you been separated from your parents?
We were separated from my parents.
And can you tell us a little bit about how it was that you made the fertilizer at this kapok plantation? What were the ingredients? What was the process?
Well, first we had to cut the snake root and we had to grind it, and other people had to dig up a termite mound dirt, and then we had to pee in bottles, and then we had to pour the piss on the dirt and on the chopped up snake root so we could mix it together.
And just going back to your age quickly, you mentioned that you think you were 15 or 16 at the time. Now, based on my calculation, if you were born in 1964, you would have been at most 15 at the end of the decay period. Is that something you're able to help with, or is that something you're not quite sure about?
Well, my parents told me that I was such and such an age. So, since I cannot read, I could not know exactly how old I was.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on. And I'd like to turn now to the Trapeang Tama Dam work site. Now, this was a large site. Are you able to tell us in what part of the site you worked on? Were you close to a particular bridge? Were you in a particular commune? Are you able to identify the location with any specificity?
Well, I was on the east side, in the east corner, then facing west.
President, with the Chamber's leave, I'd like to show the witness the map of the Trapeang Tama Dam work site from the OCIJ site identification report. I don't know whether he'll be able to work with it or not, but I'd like to ask him if he can give us an idea of where he was. And for the record, this is page 3 of E3/8050 in all 3 languages. Now, Mr. Witness, I know this is not a very clear picture, and I know that maps are not always easy to work with, but looking at that, are you able to indicate to us with any more precision where you were located on the dam site?
I cannot read, and so I can't read this map. I see that there's all kinds of drawing here, but I don't understand this map.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Witness. I'll move on. Now, in your OCIJ statement, you describe being part of a battalion of 300 child workers, and you use the term Special Children's Unit. Could you explain to us what Special Children's Units were?
Well, the Special Children's Unit was a unit of children, of boys who were almost teenagers, who were able to work.
And can you describe for us what your work was and how you went about doing it each day?
We had to dig pits. I was the digger, and there were 2 carriers. And at night, I sometimes would sleep on the handle of my pickaxe because I was tired. So the carriers would come wake me up each time, and vice versa, I would wake them up too.
And you mentioned a digger and carriers. Can you tell us what tools were used to dig and what tools were used to carry?
Well, I would dig with the pickaxe, and the carriers used baskets that were woven, and they were carrying shoulder poles.
And where would they carry the earth that you dug up?
We carried earth to build the dike.
How far would you say each load had to be carried? Can you give us an estimate of the distance?
About 20 meters, between 20 to 30 meters. From the base of the embankment, and the embankment was about 10 meters high.
And would the earth have to be carried to the top of that 10-meter embankment?
Yes, we had to carry the earth from the canal onwards in order to build the embankment.
When the carriers were carrying the earth, would they walk or would they run?
They would walk at normal speed.
Are you able to estimate how much each load weighed that they would carry?
Well, each basket held about 15 kilos of earth. Well, with both baskets, the total weight was about 20 kilos.
Were the two boys who were carrying earth in your small group, were they about the same age as you?
Yes, we were all about the same age.
I don't know whether you even knew this at the time or whether you can remember, but do you know how much you weighed at that time, what your weight was?
I don't remember how much I weighed back then. Since I was so skinny, I could not know how much I weighed.
When you were doing your work, were there ever any tractors or trucks or other mechanized equipment to help you?
No. When I was there There was no machinery, only human labor.
Well,
President, thank you, Deputy International Co-Prosecutor. We will break and resume at 3 o'clock. Court officer, please watch over the witness during the break and lead him back to the courtroom at